You're listening to the Voice of Your Brand podcast, episode number 12. In today's episode, we are going to find out if your audience believes that you have authenticity and authority. That's coming up next.
Ready to go behind the scenes and learn what it really takes to stand out as the voice of your brand? I'm Katherine Beck, voice actor and voice coach. And after 20 years of being the voice of other brands, I'm here to show you how your voice is your most powerful tool to creating the impact, influence, and income you desire. The world is your global stage, so get ready to up-level your voice and your personal brand. This is the Voice of Your Brand podcast.
We will get started with today's episode in just a moment, but first I want to give a big shout out to Stu333 who says, Katherine has such great tips for bringing your personal style and voice into your business. These small changes have such a great impact and lead to true connection and meaningful conversations with your audience. Love this podcast. Thank you so much, Stu33, if that is your real name, and you are right on the money. Small changes make a big impact, especially with your audience, because they want to hear authenticity. They want to hear your voice and your personal style, and I appreciate you recognizing that right here on the podcast. And hey, if you are loving what you're hearing on the podcast, make sure that you follow. Tap those 5 stars, leave a very brief review, and let me know what you think of the podcast. It means so much to me to get your feedback, and also because it helps us get noticed and ranked on Apple. So that means so many more people can find out about the podcast and listen. So really appreciate it. So don't forget to leave that review. And hey, if you do, you will also get featured right here on the show. So if you're loving this podcast, go ahead and leave us a review. All right, so last week I recorded that episode one day too soon because I've got big news for you today on the podcast. So if you are not on my email list, why not? You should be. But if you're not on my email list or if you're not following me on Instagram or TikTok, again, why not? At Katherine_Beck_. Both TikTok and Instagram. But I shared news on all those channels because we made the number 1 spot. The podcast got the number 1 top ranking in marketing in the business category. I beat out Jenna Kutcher. I beat out Amy Porterfield. Now, if you know those names, those are big names. That is not an easy task. And I did it. And I want to give you a little bit of a backstory in case you don't know, because I had this picture on my vision board for over a year. It was the number 1 on Apple Podcasts. So it was a very small picture that was just like a little snippet of Apple Podcast and had the number 1 on there. And I had it on there for over a year. And you know how sometimes you put things on your vision board? So if you've got a vision board, you know how sometimes you put things on there and they seem so unrealistic? Like you'd love for it to happen. Obviously, that's why you got it on the vision board. But some part of you maybe doesn't believe it or thinks that there's a chance that it won't happen or it's going to be really hard. Like it's something that's a far reach, if you know what I mean. Well, this was one of those things. So day 1 of the podcast, we launched and I was thrilled, like beyond belief thrilled to find out that I was number 3 because literally when I launched this podcast, I did not put a whole lot of time and effort into the actual launch. I just announced it 2 days prior. And so when I got number 3, I was like, oh my goodness, I am absolutely thrilled. But then I was like, okay, so if I hit number 3, then maybe I should do like another push, another promotion. So maybe tomorrow I could be number 1. So I did. I, kept putting the word out there, kept asking people to subscribe, download the episodes, do all the things, the reviews, the ratings. And so the next morning I looked and I was number 2. Oh, well, that's good. Number 2 is good, right? And I thought, oh gosh, I'm so close. And I thought, let me just see if I can still ask around. So I was still trying on the 3rd day, but the hope was kind of dissipating. Like I thought, maybe I should just be grateful with the number 2 spot. So on day 3, again, I was number 2. And then I just felt like there's no hope. Like oh, I'm not going to make number one. I'm just going to be happy with number two. I'm not going to be greedy. Maybe this is my manifestation. Maybe I'm not ready to get the number one spot. Maybe this is the lesson that I need. All the things, right? And so I was having a conversation with somebody in the middle of the day, and they said, don't give up. Keep going until you get that number one spot. And I thought, oh, okay, I'll listen. I'll do it. You're right. Keep going. I'm so close. Don't give in. Don't give up. Even though I felt like throwing in the towel, I thought I'm going to listen to this person and I'm going to persist. And so I did. And I gave it one final push. And that next morning when I woke up and I saw the number one next to my name, next to the podcast, I thought, I did it. I actually did it. My manifestation happened. And if I can do this, I can do anything. And so can you. Anything really is possible if you put your mind to it. So this is a reminder for you to dream big, to dream the impossible, because the impossible can actually happen. If it happened for me, it can happen for you. So go on, get out there, dream big, and report back to me, because I want to hear how your vision board vision came true. All right, that's the end of the number one podcast story. Okay, so one more thing I want to just let you know about. This is super exciting, big news. I've got a free masterclass coming up for all of you on speaking with influence so you can get more sales on your next launch. That is what we're going to be talking about. It's going to be super informative, super powerful. I'm going to work with some people at the end of the masterclass so you can get some coaching with me as well, which is amazing and exciting. So if you want to join me for that, which I know you do, just head over to katherinebeck.com/masterclass to sign up, and I will see you there. All right, let's get into it. Dive into today's topic, which is about if your audience believes that you are not only authentic, but also have authority. And I want you to sit with that for a moment. So when you speak, does your audience believe you? Do you believe you? Do you genuinely think you are being authentic and also showing up as an authority, meaning as the expert that you truly are? Now, if you were to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being totally fake, fakey fakerson, and 10 being totally real and authentic, what would you rate yourself? All right, next, on a scale of 1 to 10, let's talk about authority. Do you think you come off as an authority or expert to your audience? So 1, you are totally lacking confidence and not sure if you are an authority. And 10, you are the most authoritative person in the room. What's your number? So here's something really interesting as you're thinking about that and you're rating yourself. I Googled the meaning of authentic and listen to this. It says of indisputed origin and not a copy. Genuine. Not a copy. I thought this was very interesting because I often say when you're creating content online to be original. Use your voice, share your unique ideas and perspectives instead of just copying the latest trends just to go viral, right? So then I also Googled genuine since it was part of that definition, and this came up. Truly what something is said to be, authentic. And it also said of a person, emotion, or action, sincere. So this I loved, and this is what, for me, I think being authentic is all about. One of the biggest roadblocks also that I see with online course creators and experts, business owners online is this lack of authenticity, either because you're hesitant or afraid or just don't do it to maybe protect yourself from the trolls and the naysayers that are online, or that fear of judgment. You know, what will people say about me, or what will people think about me? How will they judge me? So if we aren't being authentic, usually there's like this invisible wall that we've put up that protects us. But the problem with that invisible wall is it also does not let our audience in. It's a barrier, right? Even though you can't see it, it's there. You're literally blocking them from you. And if they cannot get to you, If they cannot see who you are, authentically you, they're going to go someplace else. They're going to go to someone else. And look, I know there's a lot of talk about being authentic, and authentic is like a buzzword that you hear a lot, but maybe you don't even know what it means, or, it's great and all, but if you're not actually doing it or doing the work to get to that point of authenticity, then what is the point? Because that invisible barrier is never going to allow you that true connection. It's never going to allow you to be seen by others. And if you notice that you're holding back in creating and publishing content, or you're creating content, but you're not using your voice, then we got to look at something I call your voice story. And you might be thinking, well, what is my voice story? Well, I will tell you. So we all have a voice story, and our voice story can evolve over time, and it can shift, which is a beautiful thing. Now, this is something I always work on with my private clients as well as in my program, Launch Your Voice. And I'm going to give you here a quick rundown of what it is. So play along with me at home and see what comes up for you. There's often this moment back in time, back when you were younger. The age can vary. Some people could be quite young. For many of my clients, I find it ends up being sort of those early high school or junior high years. And so I want you to close your eyes, breathe in and out, and think of a time when you first remember speaking. And just let whatever pops up in your head, that first memory of you speaking, let that be there. And notice if there was anything specific that happened. Who's in the room with you? What do you see? What do you hear? How do you feel? And just take note of that memory. Might be insignificant, or it might be a really big memory for you. This is a time, likely, potentially, where your voice got stuck. It got stuck in this moment. So I'm going to make up a totally random scenario just as an example so you have an idea of what I'm talking about, so this makes more sense to you. Okay, so freshman year, 9th grade, I get up to do a speech. It's English class. I'm going to talk about Romeo and Juliet. We've been working on it in school. I need to do a speech on it. I'm walking up to the front of the class. I've got my note cards. I'm feeling nervous. I can feel my heart racing. My hands start shaking so much that you can see the note cards moving. And as soon as I start to speak, my voice quivers. It shakes. It actually makes almost like a crack, like you can hear it break. And it's soft. And someone shouts out from the room, "Speak up!" And then someone else starts laughing. You hear like a small chuckle. And I freeze. I freeze because I hear someone laughing and I think, are they laughing at me? And from that moment on, I had a fear of speaking in front of a group. A fear because I was afraid that somebody was going to laugh at me. So what do? I avoid speaking in front of people. And when I have to, I hold back because I'm afraid that somebody's going to laugh at me. And that's my voice story. And for years, I've been living from this place. My voice stuck in time. But we can rewrite that story. We can set our old voice free and speak from our true voice, our authentic voice, the voice we were meant to speak from. And that's what it means to speak with authenticity. And you'll find that invisible barrier that you've held on for so long suddenly comes crashing down because that limiting belief that was holding you back is no longer there. And now, how good does it feel to speak? So that gives you a little idea of your voice story and when you can work through your voice story and essentially rewrite a new story for yourself, which is what I do with my students and inside my program. That's when you're going to start to really feel at ease and feel that authenticity for the first time in a long time. I tell you, it's going to feel good. Now, let's talk about authority. So what does that mean, speaking with authority? So I looked it up in the dictionary, and it says power to influence or command thought, opinion, or behavior. Now, when we equate this to speaking, that essentially means having the ability to influence or evoke a thought or feeling. And that sounds a little bit nicer than command, right? But I like to think about authority is that when we speak a certain way, it's perceived by our audience as us being an authority, an expert in our niche, knowledgeable, highly skilled. And if someone is out there seeking information about a particular subject or thing, it kind of helps to sound credible, kind of helps to sound like an authority on that subject matter, right? So that is where your vocal instrument, the tools you have in your vocal toolkit, becomes so important because your vocal delivery can either tell someone that you are weak, insecure, not knowledgeable, or you can sound confident, strong, and knowledgeable. So things that come into play to support sounding authoritative when it comes to your vocal toolkit is things like volume, the pace at which you speak, the ability to pause, the ability to not say all the time, and the tone, the tonality in your voice. And if you can master your vocal toolkit, you will easily sound authoritative and credible. So I want you to think about what we talked about today. How can you elevate your number on that scale? Remember when we rated on a 1 to 10, your authority and your authenticity? How can we elevate that number so you can sound a little bit more authentic and a little bit more authoritative? Now, it's not going to happen overnight. What's one step? What's one thing you can kind of play around and start to do so we can increase that number? And one more thing I want to leave you with is, what is this costing you by not showing up as your authentic self and not showing up as the expert that you know you are? How many leads? How many sales are you missing out on? And how much longer do you want this to continue going down this path? Because these things are not going to go away, and they're only going to get harder as you go along if you keep avoiding it. And really, this is a simple adjustment. Like, this is not a big thing, but we make it one of those things that we don't want to work on because it's sort of that uncomfortable kind of awkward thing where it's like you get self-conscious about your voice. You know, if there's anything you don't like about your voice, you'd rather hide it, put it down into some nice little corner within your brain and not think about it. But the reality is it really is affecting your business. It's the invisible things that we don't consider are actually being sent out to your audience, and they're shifting the outcome. So if you want to shift the outcome, if you're not happy with the outcome, I would recommend having a look at this. And here's an example. If you're struggling to convert those sales calls or get your conversion rate up on your launches or increase the downloads on your podcast or get more subscribers on YouTube or increase the views on your Reels and TikToks, think about the things that we talked about today and try it on for size, because your voice matters and it's time to do something about it. Now, if this interests you and you're thinking, you know what? Yes, I do want to learn more about speaking with authority, authenticity, and I'm ready to learn a little bit more about your voice process, how to enhance my voice for my next launch or next podcast or whatever it may be, then go ahead and join me for my free masterclass. You can register at katherinebeck.com/masterclass. Remember, I'm going to be taking on some volunteers as well, so you can work with me one-on-one in the training as well. So make sure to sign up, and I look forward to seeing you there. And remember, if you love this episode, go ahead, let me know, take a screenshot of the show, share it with me on your Instagram stories, and tag me in it at Katherine_Beck_. You can find me there. If you've got any questions or topics, let me know. And coming up next week on the show, we're talking about how to convert leads into sales through influential speaking. Now, make sure to share the show with all your friends, let them know what's coming up next time, and invite them to tune in with you to learn how to speak up and stand out as the voice of your brand. Until then, go on, get out there and share that powerful voice of yours with the world. And I'll see you back here next time.